You got to go to Eastern Market. Joining me now is activist and political commentator Deja Fox and writer and comedian and my dear friend Baratunde Thurston. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for having us, Jacob. Man, you and your hair looking good out there in the D. Well done. $1 cauliflower.
Humidity. $1 cauliflower. Baratunde, we ended on me being a bit of a prick about the Dodgers. I take it back because look at the post that I saw just now on Blue Sky. It says the Dodgers have lost 7 straight games. They are 4-9. 307 winning percentage since visiting the White House. Before the visit, they had the best record in baseball. Since the visit, they had the second worst. Baratunde, confirmation that not just the Trump sports curse is in fact real, but I didn't even realize that there was a thing out there called ETTD, everything Trump touches dies. Confirmation?
I mean, very much confirmation, whether it's the Dodgers, whether it's the Knicks in that series, which they got over, thankfully, whether it's the Strait of Hormuz, like whatever this dude touches, it gets a little complicated and unideal, to say the least.
Yeah. Deja, it's nice to meet you, first of all, but I want to ask you about another thing that Trump touches that seems to be on the rocks, the ballroom. Another hit this week, this federal appeals court, they blocked construction, and now he's promising to bring it to the Supreme Court like he does with everything else. You think, your prediction, are we ever going to hear the end of that?
Well, you know, this ruling in particular, it's interesting because it's not a ruling on if it's tacky and ugly. It's not a ruling on if he can ultimately do it or if it's desirable. It's really just saying that he needs to work as a team with Congress. And, you know, Donald Trump is not a team player. He's working to consolidate power and push his way through. And this is just one of those examples. So will we hear the end of it? I'm not sure. I think he's going to take this to his hand-selected court and continue to keep it in the news, continue to keep us watching when there are more important things happening.
Well, he's doing the same thing, Baratunde. We talked about it earlier in the show about birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court rejected him, and now he's, through executive order, trying to go around the Supreme Court. He just can't seem to stop when he can't take an L, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, this is a man who will never admit fault, and it's not entirely his fault. You know, he's a product of our society. He's a product of our media, of our business environment, of our political environment, which has encouraged this. You know, the Republicans in Michigan made up an award to try to backfill his lie about being man of the year. Yeah. And he wouldn't even accept that. He's like, no, I'm actually man of the year, though. The beautiful, tiny, but important point in that ruling about the ballroom is that they were like, yo, bro, you are a tenant. You're not the owner. And I think that cuts to a deep truth of a man who's always sought belonging and domination, even though so much of his wealth is just slapping his name on things that other people own. So I think there's something psychological, deeply emotional, and sad also going on inside this man's soul.
Sad for sure, Deja. Baratunde talked about Michigan, you know, and it was really cool to be there for this primary. I've covered a lot of them, but the energy it felt unique actually, and it was so close in the end. And Abdul El-Sayed obviously won. There was a moment from his rally on Friday that I think gave us an idea of how he's planning on approaching President Trump and Mike Rogers as a Republican opponent. Let's watch that real quick.
Now, Mike, I'm just going to remind you, if you don't know how to say the name, keep the name out your damn mouth. But I got some opinions about his name. See, it's very fitting for him, Rogers. Because that's his answer every time a corporation or Donald Trump tells him to do something. Mike, we need you to put a data center in the backyard. Roger. Mike, we need you to hike their prescription drug prices. Roger. Mike, we need you to rubber stamp this war we shouldn't be fighting. Roger. Mike, and this one's Donald Trump, I need you to lick these boots. Roger.
I mean, Deja, it's pretty good. I wonder, in terms of your prediction here, we're going to hear more candidates start to talk like Abdul El-Sayed in this just direct, I don't know, no BS sort of, I'm going to give back to you what you're giving to us?
You know, I want to caution some of the candidates out there that just because you see it working for someone like him does not mean it's always going to work for you without coming across as corny and canned. It works for him because he can really stand in it. He is a disruptor. He's used to speaking up and standing up. And that's what people saw in him and what ultimately I think took him across the finish line in that primary where corporate PAC money, APAC money were not a signal of electability, but a liability. And he's really ushering in a new era, I think, where what has once been markers of a successful campaign, you know, a huge war chest and establishment endorsements no longer carry the same weight, but actually can damage a campaign. And his people power, I think, is indicative of the outsider moment we're in, but it is not representative of every candidate, even in the Democratic Party.
I want to continue this conversation. We've got to take a quick break. Deja Fox and Baratunde Thurston, stay with me. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back with Deja Fox and Baratunde Thurston talking more prediction markets. You guys heard everybody's take on the data centers when I was out there at Eastern Market. They are overwhelmingly unpopular with voters. This is what Donald Trump says about how he sees them. Let's watch.
I saw Texas the other day sort of is against data centers. I think it's a mistake. And I'm not taking positions, or I'm just think it's a mistake because there are other communities that want it. When a community wants it, it means a lot of money is going to come into that community.
Unsightly, potentially.
Well, I don't think they're unsightly. I mean, I'm looking at some of these data centers, the most incredible buildings I've ever seen. If I were a governor, I would want data centers so badly.
They're some of the most incredible buildings I've ever seen, he says, Baratunde. Your prediction, is that the winning message for Republicans?
At Donald Trump's taste in buildings, that's not necessarily the highest order endorsement for the aesthetics, much less the politics of these things. Data centers, they've become the most bipartisan position of agreement in the country that most people aren't talking about, whether it's Bernie and Bannon overlapping on their take on AI, the Democratic Socialists and the Tea Party showing up at the same community meetings 20 minutes from where I live. The city residents overturned a backroom deal that the now former mayor, had to walk back, and he's likely headed to incarceration due to pleading guilty for crimes in the way he managed that deal. There's so much rage and anger, not necessarily at technology, but at the power structure that's imposing something people haven't asked for on them without any consent. So this is a very literally hot topic.
And don't understand either, Deja. Like, how would you advise a politician running today to deal with this incredibly unpopular, as Baratunde pointed out, issue with both Republicans and Democrats?
Yeah, I mean, first step is read the room. Show up to a local city council meeting right here in Tucson, where I live in Arizona. Just this week, we saw our city council pass regulations on these data centers. And, the crowd actually was pushing for more. They wanted a full outright ban. And it's becoming a tension at a local and state level where local governments like the city council here in Tucson are exploring bans, but in tension and in contrast to places like Arizona with Republican-led legislators that are pro-business and anti-public health and public well-being. And so, I think what's become very interesting with these data centers is that they are pushing and pulling at tensions between left and right, local, state, federal. But it is also bringing in an entirely new generation of people who are showing up to city council meetings, who are storytelling and getting involved. And to me, as somebody who started out as a grassroots organizer, that is really exciting.
What to Deja's point,
we've covered on the show. What a big. Go ahead, Baratunde.
One of the rallying cries out in the Coachella Valley where I'm in, and was date farms, not data centers. And when you look at the imposition of a certain type of business model in capitalism, again, not just broad anti-tech, but anti-oligarch, anti-trillionaire wannabe, then this is one of the few places that people can take this ephemeral feeling of not being heard and have it show up physically in their lives, in a utility commission hearing, in a zoning hearing, in a city council hearing. And to Deja's point, as you listen to people talking, they are very passionate, but it's not just about the data center. It's about the power structure. It's about not being heard. It's about the failure of this democracy to deliver. And this is where people can like actually meet that in the physical world. So that's why it's important beyond just the issue of AI or not AI.
It all centers around connecting, and sorry to to invoke the name of the show, but like if you are not connecting with the people who are your constituents and not understanding that this is something that they are just aghast at, you're doing it wrong. This has been such a good Prediction Markets. Deja Fox, activist and political commentator, and Baratunde Thurston, the great writer and comedian. Thank you both so much. Let's do this again in person. Appreciate you.